Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to hit on a classic. This book was published in 1948, over 6 million copies sold, and it's a whopping 352 pages. So kind of a long video, but totally worth it. How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie. It's no secret that over-worrying drains you, makes you tired, tense, over-emotional, and it's very stressful on your body. We all know from experience that worrying all the time is not a healthy way to live. So, how can we stop or at least reduce worrying? How can you stop abusing yourself with worry? That's what this book is all about, and I'm going to hit on the 5 biggest lessons. Let's dive right in. Lesson 1, put a stop-loss order on worry. A stop-loss order is a way to limit your financial downside in the stock market. If a stock goes below a certain dollar value, you cut your losses and get out before the stock goes any lower. This limits your max loss. It basically stops the bleeding. Now, this idea can be applied to worry and other negative feelings as well. You put a stop-loss order on any kind of worry, annoyance, anger, and resentment that comes to you. Let's say you're worrying about something. How long will you worry about that one thing? How much does that thing really matter to you? In the grand scheme of things, how much does it really matter? How much will it matter tomorrow or next month or in 5 years? As Dale Carnegie stated, at what point shall I put a stop-loss order on this worry and forget it? Decide how much worry and anxiety something is worth and absolutely refuse to give it any more than that. By giving yourself boundaries, let's say limiting your worrying to 5 minutes or an hour on a particular issue, and then sticking to that, you're giving yourself a sense of control and authority over the worry. Usually, worry runs rampant and unchecked, which is why it eats away at us. You probably never told yourself you're only going to allow yourself to worry about something for 10 minutes, and then after that, you have to get to work on the issue or move on. It's such a simple yet effective solution to limit the endless cycle of worrying. When thinking of what the stop-loss limit should be for something, keep the law of averages in mind. 90% of things you worry about will never happen. So with that law of averages in mind, ask yourself the following question. What are the chances that this thing I'm worrying about will ever occur? Okay, this all sounds great. Set up a stop-loss order on the worries, the resentments, and the regrets in life, but how? We know we shouldn't worry so much. The problem is, worrying has become a habit, and we all know how hard it can be to break a habit. That's where Dale Carnegie's magic formula comes into play. It is the key to breaking the worry habit. How to stop worrying and start living lesson 2. 3 steps to reduce worry, aka the magic formula. Step 1 is to get the facts. You can't solve a problem without first identifying the problem. So identify what exactly it is that you're worrying about. What's keeping you up at night? Whatever it is that you're worrying about, identify the worst case scenario. What's the worst possible outcome? It could be that you'll lose your job if such and such happens, or your marriage will be over, or you'll be broke if the stock market crashes. It's essential that you write this worry down. Once it's written down somewhere and defined, the problem isn't quite as big as we built it up in our minds to be. It's the confusion and uncertainty of what could happen that really gets us wound up so tight with worry. Step 2, after identifying the worst case scenario, reconcile yourself to accepting it. As bad as it may be, accept that it could happen. For example, I'll lose my job and I won't be able to pay the bills. I'll have to foreclose on my house because I can't pay the mortgage, and I'll be homeless. As bad as it may sound, you have to bring yourself to accept that it could happen. As I said, confusion and uncertainty cause excessive worry. Once we nail down the worst case scenario and try to accept it, we feel a sense of relief. Just from that alone, a weight will be lifted. We've cleared the air. Just in clearing the confusion and identifying the worst case, we say, hey, you know what? I guess it would suck, but I can live with that. We learn to come to terms with it. This doesn't mean we're blowing off our worries. As Dale said, be concerned about our problems, but not worried. Also, keep in mind that acceptance is not resignation. Once you accept the worst case scenario, you'll feel so much better and you'll be much better mentally equipped in terms of concentration and decision making to work on the problem at hand instead of worrying. That brings us to step 3. All effort should be directed on making the worst case scenario better. What can you do about it? As Dale Carnegie stated, he would devote his time and energy to trying to improve upon the worst which he had already accepted mentally. Once you make a decision, stick to it. Don't go back and forth, don't self-doubt, Don't reconsider unless you get new information. There comes a time when we must decide and act and never look back. Worry stems from confusion and uncertainty, which leads to indecision and inaction. You get stuck in an endless loop of worry, confusion, and inaction. In breaking it down and looking at it that way, it makes sense that the steps are, in the words of Dale Carnegie, first I think, what's the worst that can possibly happen? Second, I try to accept it mentally. Third, I concentrate on the problem and see how I can improve the worst, which I am already willing to accept if I have to. There are some things that are beyond your ability to change. Keep the serenity prayer in mind, which goes, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Every time I am tempted now to worry about something I can't possibly change, I shrug my shoulders and say, forget it. How to stop worrying and start living lesson 3. Live in what Dale Carnegie calls day-tight compartments. Live for today. Yesterday is dead and tomorrow is unborn, so do not worry about them. Instead, focus only on what you can do today. Seems pretty simple, but it's something that we rarely do. Usually we're stuck in our heads, reliving the past or thinking about the future. Try not to live in the past because you can't change anything that happened yesterday or even 2 minutes ago. As they say, don't cry over spilt milk. You can try and prevent milk from spilling, but if you can't stop it from happening, or it's already happened, don't cry over it. This circles back to acceptance again. Acceptance of today as it is. You can certainly make plans for the future and learn from the past, but that shouldn't take up the majority of your daily mental dialogue. Along with focusing on today, focus on one task at a time. Focus on whatever it is that lies clearly at hand. Imagine how productive you would be if you simply focused on today and the task at hand. Not only that, think of how much more at peace you'd be if you simply focused on today. Make a decision that you will live in day-tight compartments. Put up sticky notes to remind you, or put a reminder on your phone. Use whatever you can to recenter you. As Dale Carnegie stated, the best way to prepare for tomorrow is to concentrate with all your intelligence, all your enthusiasm on doing today's work. I just did a video on the Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, which discusses being present and living in the now. So if this lesson resonates with you, check that video out as well. I'll link to it below. How to stop worrying and start living lesson 4. Get your mental attitude squared away. 2 key points here. 1, circumstances don't dictate your level of happiness. And 2, what kind of thoughts are you focusing on? First, circumstances don't dictate your level of happiness. The way you react to those circumstances is what determines how happy you are. That may sound counterintuitive to some, but think about it for a moment. If 2 people can have different reactions to the same situation, then it's clear that the outward circumstances are not to blame for suffering. It's what you think of them. As Abraham Lincoln stated, most folks are about as happy as they make up their minds to be. Peace of mind doesn't come from outward conditions. It comes from your mental attitude. A man is not hurt so much by what happens as by his opinion of what happens. And our opinion of what happens is entirely up to us. Second key point, what are you focusing on in terms of thoughts? Emerson once said, a man is what he thinks about all day long. How could it be any different? What you think about is a big part of who you are. I'll add this though. Thoughts are somewhat random. We don't necessarily pick our thoughts, otherwise we would only pick good and happy thoughts. I believe they just pop up either out of your subconscious or simply out of nowhere. So it's not just the thoughts we have that determine who we are or who we become. It's the thoughts that we choose to focus on. Are you focusing on empowering thoughts or victimizing thoughts? Do you see your life as a challenge to be overcome? Or do you see your life in terms of threats, adversity, and misfortune? It's the thoughts you focus on and act on that grow into something bigger and develop who you are. The thoughts you focus on drive your behaviors and actions. What thoughts are you focusing on? Pay attention to your mind and what it clings to. There are 2 paths you can take. One is, woe is me, my life is so hard, my life sucks, and I'm going to complain about it to everyone. Or 2, you're taking responsibility for your life, being proactive, and doing what you can with what you have. So, are you the victim of your life or the hero? How to stop worrying and start living lesson 5. Get busy. Get busy working on your goals, purpose, and helping others. You can't think of more than one thing at a time. So how can this be used to your benefit? By getting so completely occupied in something constructive, that you have no time for worry. Fill your life with stimulating activities that you're passionate about, and you'll drive out worry. You'll get lost in action. Have you ever noticed that worrying strikes hardest when you aren't busy? When you're just sitting around bored? Find your passion, your mission in life. Small sidebar here. Most of us give more attention and time to the petty decisions of our life, what movie we're going to watch or what clothes we're going to buy, rather than the real important decisions of our life. What do you want to do with your life? What are your goals, vision, and purpose? I have a video on discovering your purpose. I'll link to it below. Moving on though, on top of the purpose, mission, goals, take an interest in others and help them. When you help someone else, you forget about yourself and your worries. As Carl Jung stated, in order to be happy, make others happy. Don't be too self-involved. Instead, find out what makes other people tick. Talk to them. Find out more about them. Show an honest, eager interest in others. When you're good to others, you're good to yourself. Fragrance sticks to the hand that gives roses. Those are the top 5 most impactful lessons from How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie. But I do have a few bonus ones that I can't help but to include in this video. First, think about history. Times are way better than they used to be. Read some history and see how trivial your troubles are. The pages of history are truly hard. I honestly can't fathom how hard it must have been to live through the early 1900s, the mid-1900s, let alone 400 or 500 years ago. Now, when I think my problems are tough, I just compare them to the problems that they faced. World wars, poverty, starvation, slavery, concentration camps, and so on. I have to say, we got it pretty good. Forgive. The cost of getting even is way too high. When we hate our enemy, we're giving them power over us. When you try to get even, you hurt yourself more than the other person. The truth is, a soft answer usually turns away wrath. Forgive everyone every night. Have no hatred or bitterness toward anyone. The truth is, if you grew up in their shoes, you'd probably be just like them. Dale Carnegie said, "Don't judge a man until you've walked in their shoes for 2 weeks." Next is gratitude. Think of how fortunate you are to walk and see and hear, to have access to water and food, to have this computer or phone that you're watching this on. Be grateful. As they say, count your blessings, not your troubles. We seldom think of what we have, but always of what we lack. So, focus on the 90% of things that are right and not the 10% of things that are going wrong. We can certainly address the shortfalls and the things we need, but don't focus on them incessantly. Logan Smith said, "There are 2 things to aim at in life. First, to get what you want, and after that, to enjoy it. Only the wisest of mankind achieved the second." Being grateful requires cultivation. With that said, don't expect people to be grateful to you when you do something nice for them. Instead, expect ingratitude. Marcus Aurelius once said that he will meet people who are selfish, egotistical, ungrateful, but I won't be surprised or disturbed, for I couldn't imagine a world without such people. If you expect ingratitude, you'll save yourself from a lot of resentment and bitterness. You won't be irritated when someone doesn't say thank you for holding the door, for example, because you won't expect it in the first place. If we want to find happiness, let's stop thinking about gratitude or ingratitude and give for the joy of giving. Next, be yourself. If you try to be something you're not, you'll be absolutely miserable. Look, nobody wants a phony. And if you pretend to be something you're not, people will see through that anyway, which makes you look even worse. You're not fooling anyone but yourself. People will be much more interested in you if you're being genuine and authentic, and you'll also be happier. You are something new in this world. Nobody has ever been like you or will be like you, so embrace that. Be yourself with all your faults and be proud of yourself. Dale Carnegie talks about criticism in several chapters. If it's constructive criticism, great. Welcome that and learn from it. But if it's unjust criticism, then see it for what it is, a disguised compliment. Another classic quote from Dale, "Unjust criticism is often a disguised compliment. It often means that you have aroused jealousy and envy." Eleanor Roosevelt stated, "Never be bothered by what people say, as long as you know in your heart you are right." So hear the criticism, decide if it's constructive or destructive, and then move on. Don't dwell on it all night long. Rest. Take breaks throughout the day before you get tired. Learn to take breaks and relax your eyes, jaw, face, neck, and shoulders several times throughout the day. I personally hold a lot of tension in my eyes, jaw, and neck, so this is a huge help. Just remind yourself to relax those areas several times a day by leaving notes, reminders on your phone, or whatever works for you. When you really want to relax, be as limp as a sock, as wet as a rag, or like the neighborhood cat that lounges around effortlessly. Learn to do things at work, at home, at school, in a more relaxed manner. There's no reason why we need to be so tense when performing a task. And actually, it probably makes us less effective at the task at hand if we're not relaxed. Tension is a habit, relaxing is a habit, and habits can be broken, good habits can be formed. James Allen. I'll leave you with a couple final quotes. Remember, today is the tomorrow you worried about yesterday. Ask yourself, how do I know this thing will really come to pass? The load of tomorrow added to that of yesterday, carried today, makes the strongest falter. Why even try? That's it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe and drop a comment, and I'll see you in the next video.